Octopath Traveler 0. I went into this game completely fresh. I never played Champions of the Continent, the mobile game that this is originally based on, and I basically had my doubts. I'm not really much of a mobile gamer, of course. Whenever a mobile game usually gets upscaled or ported to console, you kind of have to assume there's going to be some weird sort of leftover design DNA, the kind that always doesn't typically translate well, but after having spent a good amount of time with this game, shout out to Square Enix of course for hooking me up with a code, I was pretty surprised and in a good way. I'll admit that I was a little bit apprehensive at first, and I think most of the people that I know who are into Octopath kind of were too. This game obviously started as a mobile gacha title that typically is attributed to things like fragmented stories, grindy progression mechanics that are basically there to keep you in that loop. But Square actually managed to pull off a pretty cohesive Octopath-style RPG here. It really does feel like a typical Octopath entry. Same, dare I say it, vibes, same identity, but with a whole set of new mechanics and systems layered in that I think elevate the formula to the point where I'm not sure I'd be able to go back to some of the other Octopaths. The first paradigm shift you notice right away if you've played other Octopath games is that instead of picking one of 8 protagonists, it's in the name of course, Octopath, you basically create your own character here and follow, at least initially, their own personal journey. I won't speak too much of the story, I want to keep this spoiler free, but lo and behold, like many other RPGs out there, a tragedy befalls the protagonist which basically sets them on their path to redemption or revenge, depending on how you want to look at things, and then they ultimately end up getting wrapped up in a far, far grander scheme, which kind of is Octopath in a nutshell as well. This might be blasphemy, but I actually really liked this change. It makes the early game a lot more focused. You're not basically bouncing around from one character to another, effectively waiting for their arcs to resolve or to take a next big step. You get a pretty clean personal introduction, and then again that story starts to open up into something a little bit larger. Having said that, you're not entirely tunnel visioned. When you start the game, there are basically 3 main routes that you can choose from. Some players might feel like this is a little bit of a funnel, taking away that initial Octopath go anywhere freedom, but again for me it worked and it gave the narrative direction and I guess tighter pacing. If that doesn't seem like too much of a step forward, then here's where things get more interesting. In previous Octopath games, you could only really have up to 8 characters, right? Again, it's in the name. In Octopath Traveler 0, you can have over 30 party members at any given point that you can find through side quests. Some of these side quests are somewhat lengthy and involved, whilst others typically might not even require a conversation. I thought it was also a pretty nice touch to have Octopath 1's characters appear as recruitable party members. Definitely a fun nod for fans without making it feel like they were sort of stealing the spotlight, if that makes sense. Like everything else, combat is still classic Octopath, but with a slight twist. A twist that you may either like or dislike depending on which way you lean. You can still boost, break, take advantage of enemy weaknesses to your heart's content. It is effectively a turn-based RPG, but it has been greatly expanded. You can now take 8 characters or party members into battle, with a front row and a back row that you can freely swap between. It sounds simple, but the amount of tactical flexibility this gives you is fantastic, and it's great especially for some of those tough bosses. Sometimes you're able to just win, despite the fact that you're out-leveled, simply by managing your rotation well and, sheer force of will. On top of that, Octopath's standard class, or job system as it's colloquially known, returns, but again this time with a twist. NPC characters are effectively locked into their classes, so you won't be able to change their classes no matter what, but your protagonist instead is the one that can freely change between all the different jobs. At first, this change had me a little bit befuddled. Quite honestly, I thought it was pretty much a big step back from how previous Octopaths did it, and a lot of other RPGs out there did it, but once they introduced the skill mastery system, then it started to make a little bit more sense. Like previous Octopath games, you're able to spend JP or job points to effectively unlock new skills for any given NPC in that specific class, and then once you've unlocked everything, you're able to spend more JP to unlock those as skills that are agnostic and that can be attributed to any other character. This effectively means, like rotating jobs in previous games, you can have characters here learn skills outside of their base class, despite not being able to change that base class whatsoever. Definitely not a change that I'm 100% set on. Part of me feels like the old system is better, but I can understand why they did it. By locking people into their base class, it basically means that you have to pick and choose your party members carefully. And given there's over 30 plus of them, if you're able to switch different classes between all of them, there would genuinely be no point in having that many. Those of you pesky players who spent a lot of time, like myself, taking things from NPCs, you'll be happy. Path actions are back. You'll be able to interrogate NPCs, fight them, steal from them, or take their items. It's effectively all here, but now your success in doing so is tied to this new wealth, fame, and strength system that builds up as you complete different quests, both main and side. It adds a little bit of strategy as to how you want to interact with towns. But ultimately, let's be honest, if we're going to find something with an incredibly low drop rate that has a lot of juicy stats to them, you can be damn sure we're going to find the nearest save point and save scum until we get it. Having said all of that, we've not even got into the biggest curveball of Octopath Traveler 0, and that is the town building system. Very early on in the game, the town of Wishvale goes through complete and utter destruction, and it's up to you to decide how you want to rebuild the town, and it's basically woven into the story. Now, if you don't care about it whatsoever, you can ignore it completely. It's entirely optional. Though I'm not sure why you'd want to. There is a series and selection of side quests, effectively, that go into the town, allowing you to unlock new things to build, recruit new members, manage new resources, and the more time you invest into it, the more that it gives back, in the form of things like special shops, additional NPCs that have unique abilities, or even systems that allow you to provide XP or job points to members who aren't in your party and that are just waiting in the wings. Beyond the mechanical additions, it obviously is just a nice way to break up the pace of gameplay. If you've been sweating through fight after fight or have hit a particularly hard wall of a boss fight, you can take the time here to reconvene, move things around, build things out however you want, and then get back into the swing of things. Given how positive I've been so far in my thoughts and review of this game, it's not necessarily perfect. The story really leans into standard RPG tropes, lots of melodrama, lots of predictable story beats. It's not necessarily all too bad, but there'll definitely be some twists that you'll potentially see coming a mile away. And of course, this is a classic RPG and one that does not hold your hand, much like other Octopath Travelers. If you don't level properly, or if you don't fully understand the boost and break and weakness system, you're gonna get absolutely obliterated. Honestly, if you're struggling, I would recommend overleveling beyond some of the recommended levels they give you if you want just a bit of a smoother time overall. And the last thing to mention, of course, is that even though the world typically does look somewhat open, the level gating in each of these areas is going to keep you on pretty much a fairly linear path. Despite its origins as a mobile title and some questionable decisions here and there, I really liked Octopath Traveler 0. If you're into RPGs, there is a ton to enjoy here, both the classic mechanics and the new systems that shake things up just a bit. But again, there's things like the restricted job system that has me scratching my head. At the end of the day though, this is a solid Octopath entry and a refreshing take on what I think is the series' tried and true formula. This has very much been focused on what the game has provided new mechanically, but I'd be utterly remiss not to mention the game's gorgeous HD 2D graphics. If you've seen my reviews of previous Octopaths or even some other games like the Dragon Quest games that take advantage of this graphics engine, you know how much I enjoy them. And then even just also the fantastic music that the Octopath series is known for, and the utterly melodramatic but thoroughly enjoyable performances from some of the voice talent that bring the cutscenes of this game to life. If you're a fan of Octopath Traveler, then, need I say more? And if you're on the fence at this point, then I suggest you try it, especially if you've been craving old school RPG combat with that modern twist. And with that, we come to the end of my Octopath Traveler 0 review. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. With all that said and done, it has been me, Devil Never Cry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.